Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastuma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Puranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Dakshinamurtaye Namah. Om Namo Brahmadevya Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartravya Vamsharshibhya Mahadvya Namo Gurubhya. When this Maitreyi revealed her total vairagya, total indifference towards any material gain or material accomplishment, it's very clear that she was only interested in the accomplishments of the self. Sahovacha Yajnavalkya Priyavatare Naha Sati Priyam Bhashase. Yajnavalkya said to Maitreyi that you've always been beloved of me, but today when you express your keen interest in the self-knowledge, then you are particularly beloved to me. Ehi Asva, come, take your seat. Vyakhyāsyāmite, I will explain to you what it is that you want to know. Yade Bhagavan Veda Tadeva me Bruhiti. Whatever it is that your Venerable Sir knows as a means of immortality, please tell me that. Vyakhyāsyāmi, I will explain to you that which is the means of immortality. Vyachakshanasyametu nididhyasasvedi. And when I explain that to you, may you deeply meditate upon that, meaning that may you listen to it very alertly, carefully, and also contemplate upon that while you are listening. Then Yajnavalkya made a very famous statement, Atmastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Navare patihu kamaya patih priyo bhavati. Atmastu kamaya patih priyo bhavati. Hey Maitreyi, it is not for the sake of the husband that the husband is dear to the wife. It is for the sake of the self that the husband is dear. And so on and so forth. Not for the sake of wife that the wife is dear to the husband. It is for the sake of self. Atmastu kamaya saram priyam bhavati. The conclusion is that whatever is dear to me is dear because of myself. Meaning that my love for myself is the primary love, and my love for anything else is because of the love for the self. My love for anything else is secondary, you can call it. When anything becomes helpful to me, anything becomes upakaraka, helpful to me to love myself. I say a constant love affair is going on with me, with myself. And whatever helps in that, whatever becomes an aid to that, also becomes secondarily loved. So if you become favorable to me, if you make me like myself, if by your words or by your behavior in any way you create in me the feeling that I'm likable, by your words or behavior you make me comfortable with myself, then I am able to enjoy myself, and therefore I enjoy you also as a consequence. My enjoyment of anything else is conditional to my enjoyment of myself. Therefore, I like those people who make me comfortable with myself, who create in me a sense of self worth, who create in me a sense of self liking by their words, by their behavior, by their very presence also. So, it will just make me feel good about myself. And conversely, some people, by their very presence, make me feel bad about myself. Then I don't like them. Which Swami once said, see, people, somebody doesn't like me just because I'm there. That may be so because just by being there, I somehow make that person uncomfortable with the self. And that is how ultimately all that is going on is my love for myself. Except that the idea of the self keeps on changing. Very often, my son who is so dear to me, he takes the place of the self. Sometimes my country takes the place of the self. Meaning that that is in fact gauna in the sense secondary. I know very well that my country is not myself. But I could have so much love for my country that I may be willing to sacrifice my life for the country. Under those conditions, the country becomes the self. My son can become the self. My wealth can become the self. Or my body can become the self, that is the mithya self. And finally, when the knowledge takes place, I know myself is Satchit Ananda, and that is the true self. So definition of self keeps on changing in different circumstances. But whatever my definition of self is under those circumstances, that is the self that is most important to me. But this we may note that the idea of self keeps on shifting. It's not always the same. The idea of self also changes depending on the circumstances. We wish that ultimately the idea remains one, and that is, I recognize my true self as a self under all conditions. Then my love is going to be real love because then I know myself as the self of all, which is a reality. And therefore, then I know you as also myself. Therefore, I love you as much as I love myself. That is when my love becomes absolutely mature. And that is the purpose of the self-growth or emotional maturity, in the words of Puja Swamiji. And this automatically happens as the purification of mind takes place. We do not have to make a special effort to love somebody or something. Love is something that happens, and therefore my effort will be to transform or make my mind, form my mind such that it automatically loves things. That is called the purification of the mind. When the mind is tamasic, tamas doesn't love anything, don't like anything. Mind is rajas, predominant rajas. I like only those things that are conducive to me, and I dislike others. Mind becomes sattvic. I find that everything is conducive. More sattvic the mind is, more conducive or likable I find things. Why is it so? Because I associate or contact different aspects of you depending upon the state of my mind. When my mind is predominantly in tamas, then I only connect the tamas aspect of you, your body, etc., gross things. And then the raga dvesha is more very distinct, prominent. My mind becomes rajas. I contact that personality of you. My mind becomes sattvic. I contact that personality or the self in you. Therefore, the first and important step is the purification of mind or antahkarana shuddhi. To make my mind become free, progressively free from raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion by Ishvara darshan. So Ishvara is the same in all. So that's what karma yoga is. That's what we can do. Recognizing the aspect of anybody which is common to mind, the extent to which I can see in you myself, to that extent, my raga dvesha as well will go. But then, for the person whose mind is sattvic, whose mind is now ready for the self-knowledge, Atma Vairadrashtavya, Shrotavya, Nidhyasadavya, Maitreyi. Hey Maitreyi, Atma. So, Atma is now, it is for the sake of self that I love everything. The self is most lovable. And later on, we reveal that the self of mind is the self of all. And therefore, what is most worthy of knowing is Atma, the self. And what is the means of knowing the self? This Upanishad reveals the means of self-knowledge as Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Therefore, the statement is made here, Atmavara Drashtavya, Shrotavya, on the page 11, in the first line, Atmavara Drashtavya, Shrotavya, Mantavya, Nidhyasadavya, Maitreyi. Therefore, since anything and everything becomes dear to me because self is dear, therefore, now what's the connection? Atmastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Whatever is dear to me is dear because the self is dear. Therefore, tasmad, what is that? Tasmad atma vaya drashtavya. Therefore, that shows that Atma, that I am is Atma, that you are, because it is for the sake of Atma alone that everything is dear to me. And therefore, Atma is the same, and that should be recognized by Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyasa. Atmanavar darshanena, Shravanena, Matya, Vijnanena, Idam Saram Viditam. The reward of self-knowledge is that when I know the self, I as well know everything. So this is the pratigna or proposition that we come across the Upanishads in more than one places. There's one place when we come across this proposition that by knowing one, you know everything. Here by knowing Atma, you know everything. Chandogya Upanishad, by knowing Sat or Brahman, you know everything. So this proposition of knowing everything apparently seems to touch everybody because we are in fact seeking to know everything. Whether we recognize that or not. But our curiosity to know everything, the curiosity to know, the first thing I open is newspaper in the morning, listen to radio, look at WhatsApp and this, that and whatnot, is my curiosity, desire to know what is happening there, what is happening with you, what is etc. etc. So this jignasa, the desire to know, is primary in the human intellect. And that jignasa, the desire to know everything, if it is satisfied, then only there will be a settlement in my mind. That now I have known whatever had to be known, that I know everything. There's no way that we can know everything. There's no way that we can know all the stars in the sky. No way that we can know all the grains of sand. No way that we can know how many hair there is on my head. And still I want to know everything. So Upanishad says there is that one thing, knowing which everything is as well known, meaning that by knowing that you get the satisfaction of knowing everything. Not that you know every grain of sand, but then you have the same satisfaction as you have known everything. And so that satisfaction, call it ananda, call it freedom. Atmanovare darshanena shravanena matya vijnanena idam sarvam viditam. So go to page number 12. In the first line, the Bhashya says, Tasmat loka prasiddham etata atmaiva priya nanyat. This is loka prasiddham, something that is well known in the world that Atma, self alone is dear and nothing else. Tasmat atma prisadhanatvad gauni anyatra pritihi atmanyo mukhya. Therefore, that love that I have or liking that I have for anything else is only gauni or secondary. My liking for the self is primary liking. Liking for anybody, including the spouse or my dear progeny child, all of these are only gauni bhakti, meaning that they're only secondary. Only because all of them facilitate the love of the self. My love facilitates the love for myself. The spouse facilitates the love for the self. If they cease to do that, they no more remain the object of love. My son, as long as infant and up to 1-2 years, then it's very conducive. I love, hug the child, infant. Slowly when the infant gains a little sense of individuality and then it starts expressing its own likes and dislikes. And by the time it is 4-year-old, and then modern child says, my dear, please switch off the TV. Then he says, do I have to? Then it confronts me. Then slowly that love starts training out. By the time the entity is 8 years old, then it talks back. By the time it is 16, it says, please leave this home. The parents are happy, the child goes to college, and child is happy that it leaves home. By then they are enough of each other. Because more individuality you express, more conflict it is going to have. There is going to be more conflict. If we function level of ego and I want only what I like, I do not want, I do not like, then that's not going to happen because what I like may not be what the other one likes and so forth. That's how, as we gain more and more or discover greater and greater individuality, usually the conflicts also increase. And then we say, you have your space and I have my space. In the US, fortunately, at the age of 18, children have to leave home because they join university, which usually, and they choose university away from the home. Usually, they don't go to university or college, which is within a town. They're happy to live, and parents are also happy. But that is because the idea of the self keeps changing. And as it becomes more and more individualized, then naturally the distance between very strong individuals is going to be more and more. And that way now, the solution to this problem of all relationships, ultimately what a relationship yields is at what level we relate. If we relate to the grossest level, physical level, there are going to be more and more distances. Subtler the level we relate with each other. In the subtlest level we relate, namely the self, there will be total harmony. And that is what the Upanishad wants to teach us. How to attain that harmony in life. That we can relate to everybody happily. It is not that I have to change the world to do that. I have to change myself in the sense that I have to slowly transform the idea of who I am. As that change or transformation takes place in me, automatically the way I relate will change. That's what the Upanishad teaches. That more closer I am to my true self, more genuine I am, more genuine my feelings are going to be, more genuine my love is going to be, and more free and free from burden I'm going to be. That love is free from burden. There is no acting in there. There is no, what shall I say, strain. Becomes more and more natural. And my life becomes most natural when I relate to you as a true self. In that sense, we can say that the Upanishad gives us the solution to all the problems in life. Problems of conflict we have. The conflicts are because of the level at which we relate to the world. And if you relate at the level of self, there will be no conflict at all because the self that I am is the self that you are. So that way this knowledge also gives a solution to all the problems, all the conflicts in life. Atmavare drashtavya, shrotavya, mantavya, nidhyasitavya Maitreyi. Atmavare drashtavya. Hey Maitreyi, Atma must be made the object of darshanam. Darshanam means the immediate perception. The word darshanam is used here because all the organs of perception the knowledge, the perception that takes place at the level of eyes is the most clear perception. We have no doubt or error with reference to what we see. What hearing also, I may sometimes question, did I hear him rightly? The knowledge that takes place, the level of eyes is the clear knowledge, without any doubt or error. Therefore, Atma Drashtavi, meaning that Atma must be known without any doubt or error. It must be clearly known as it is, without any doubt or error. Drashtavi doesn't mean that I have to see it. I have to see it as an object of eyes. I have to visualize it as an object of perception. No. So darshanam here does not mean the visualization or objectifying the Atma. Knowing the Atma as clearly as I know an object of perception of the eyes. And by the way, we always know the Atma. The self is consciousness and therefore self-revealing, self-effulgent or self-revealing. Therefore, I have no choice in not being aware of myself. I'm always aware of myself. And something can become a problem when I'm aware of that. A rope can become a problem when I'm aware of the rope. Then there's likelihood of taking that to be a snake. The rope of which I'm not aware of, there is no mistake about the rope. And rope which is known as rope also is no problem. But rope which is known and not totally known, is partially known. So Atma falls in that category. We always know ourselves. Always aware of ourselves that I'm always aware of that. I don't need to make any effort to be, because to be is my nature. Aham asmi, sada bhavi, kadachinna aham apriya. I am. You heard this? Aham asmi, sada bhavi. Well, I am. Always shine. I never dislike myself. Therefore, asti, bhati, priyam is always known to me. And only that of which I am aware creates problem for me. Therefore, Atma is the one that creates most problems for me in my life because I am always aware of that. And by grace of God, I become relieved of all the problems when I go to sleep. When I cannot sleep, what do? In words of Puja Swami, I stone my mind so that how can I avoid myself? The self-awareness is the biggest problem. Not only the biggest solution also, but biggest problem right now. And there were people who stone their minds so that you are not aware of yourself. But I'm always aware of myself. And therefore, and unfortunately, in that awareness also, there is ignorance that I always take myself to be other than what I am, contrary to what I am. That I am Brahmana, limitless by nature, and I take myself to be a limited entity. That just happens. That's how Bhagavan is, this is what Bhagavan has done, Ishvara has done. Otherwise, there will be no creation, no need for creation. This srishti will not be required if there was no ignorance. Ignorance in the form of this misconception. Knowing myself wrongly is the cause of all creation, sustenance, destruction, etc. So Bhagavan has done this so that his world goes on. Swami, everybody gets enlightened, then that's not going to happen. Some people are just concerned. What if everybody gets enlightened? What happened to the world? Nothing is going to happen. There are countless people. So even if people get enlightened, the countless will remain countless. Anyway, that's just academic question. But because I am aware of myself, therefore the self is the greatest problem for me. In the words of Puja Swamiji, I am the problem and I am the solution. The I about whom I am ignorant, that is the problem, and I, who I know rightly, is the solution. Therefore, I is the focus of attention in the Upanishads. Upanishads basically talk about I. They talk about Bhagavan, ठीक है. They talk about Tatpada, this pada, that, but basically what matters to us is the self. And although they insist upon seeing all these aspects in every Upanishad, this is Tatpada, Tvapada, but you don't find it in many Upanishads. Like in Kyono Upanishad, etc., I mean, you don't find any Tatpada, all there is this. I don't want to confuse you, but what I'm saying is the most important thing is because Swami, you're saying something different from some other teacher said, so I don't want to do that. But what is important is the I, that is the most important because that is a problem. The wrongly known I is a problem and rightly known I is a solution. Therefore, Atmavare Drashtavya. Hey Maitreyi, Atma must be known as it is. How? Shrotavya, Bantavya, Nidhyasana. So this is the source of Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyasana. The statement of Sage Yajnavalkya is the source of this. So Bhashyakara says that all these three must be done. Yada ekatvam etani upakatani tada samyak darshanam brahmaikatvisham prasidhati. When Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyasanam, all of them take place and take place again and again, so that ultimately they all become fused into one. Shravanam may be distinct, Mananam, Shravanam means listening to the teacher. Mananam means reflecting upon what it is that the teacher has taught, or understanding exactly what it is the teacher has said. And the Nidhyasanam is the assimilation of what I have been taught. So it becomes mine. So what the teacher says should become mine. That is how the pratyaya traya. Three pratyayas are there. One is the Shastra, other is the Guru, and third is myself. So there must be then a harmony between among all these three. Atmani khalu arya Maitreyi drashte shvate mate vijñāte idam sarvavidam vijñātam bhavati. Now, on the page 13, look at line 27. There, Bhashyakara asks a question. No, I'm sorry that some of you may not be able to read Devanagari, isn't it? I'm sure. How many are there who cannot read this Devanagari script? Yeah. Okay, well, often we in fact give you the English transliteration also, but so you have to bear with us as far as that is concerned. But on the page 13, line 27, Bhashyakara asked this question, Nanu, Katham anjasmin vidite anyad viditam bhavati. The earlier statement was, Atmani khalu Maitreyi vidite drishte shute vijñāte By knowing Atma, everything becomes known. That's what the previous statement said. So therefore a question is asked. How can it be that by knowing one thing you know other thing? By knowing Atma, you know Atma. By knowing Ghata, you cannot know Pata. By knowing this object, you cannot know this object. By knowing Devadatta, you do not know Yajna Mitra, you know. Here it says, by knowing Atma, you know everything. How can it be? It can only be this way. That by knowing the clay, you know all the pots and pans that are made of clay. Because clay is the Atma of all the pots and pans. But anyway, here also, nanu katham anyasmin vidite anyat viditam bhavati. How can it be that by knowing Atma, everything else becomes known? Naisha dosha, that is not a problem. Nahi Atma vyatirekena anyat kinchid asti. Because nothing is there other than Atma. It is in this case, just as by knowing the clay, all the vessels or pots and pans made of clay are automatically known because this pot is nothing but clay, and this pot also is nothing but clay, and any other vessel made of clay is nothing but clay. Swami, how do you say this is nothing but clay? Then why do you call it pot? If this is nothing but clay, why do you call it pot? Why do you call it clay? Name and form. Is it nothing but clay? Yes. Because take away the clay from this, what will remain? Nothing. But why didn't you call it clay? Why do you call it pot? So we did something to clay. What did we do? Added clay plus name and form is the pot. Or clay upon which name and form is superimposed is pot. Similarly, what is this clay? What is this Atma? What is this clay? All the different pots and pans are nothing but, in Vedantic terms, superimpositions upon clay. So what is this Atma? Each one of us is a different pot, having its own name and form. So what distinguishes one pot from the other is the name and form. So what distinguishes you from me is just name and form. How simple and how nice, is it not so? To enjoy that reality that we are, you know what we need to do? For this part, to recognize that it is not different, not essentially different from this part. What should this part do? Otherwise the part feels, oh, I'm bigger, and it feels proud and feels this, and then this poor thing feels inferior, and all complexes are there between them. That's called samsara. What is part? What does it need to do? Just become free from the notion of being a part. Recognize that in reality what it is clay. And similarly, we need to become free from the notion of being so and so. Recognize that what I am is just asti, bhati, priyam, consciousness. That's the lesson that they want to give us here. So see that when Atma is known, everything is known. Question is, how can it be that by knowing one thing, that other thing is known? Because there is no other thing. Nahi Atma vyatirekena anyat kinchid asti. There is nothing other than Atma. Yadi asti na tad viditam syat. Had there been something other than Atma, then that would remain unknown. Atma ev sarvam, but what is Atma? What is this consciousness? Here, what is this clay? Similarly also, so what is the substance of which we are made? Clay is a substance of which this pot is made. What is the substance of which we are made? Panchamahabhuta. Then further, the body is made of Panchamahabhuta. What is it that I is made of? That I is made of what substance? Asti, bhati, priyam, consciousness, chaitanyam. And therefore, the substance of which we are made is consciousness. If you reduce this to its fundamental, turn to clay. If you reduce this whole entity into its fundamental, will turn to what? Just consciousness. It's nice to know that consciousness has taken this form. And now, for poor thing doesn't realize that my essential nature is consciousness, and unfortunately emphasizes the form, not recognizing that form is not important, substance is important. And therefore, they want us to now recognize that substance. The Atma Vyatiregana Anyat Kinchidasti. There is nothing other than Atma or consciousness. This is also consciousness, and so is that, and so is that. That you, what you are is what I am, is very beautifully demonstrated in this Upanishad by our day-to-day interaction. How we feel about each other. So on the page 11, 13 rather, let us read the page, passage number 6. See, it's a very interesting way of demonstrating the universality of the self. How Atma of you and Atma of mine is the same. How do we recognize that? By our vyavahara. How we feel about each other. How we look at each other reveals that there is the same self here that is there. So the passage says, Brahmatam paradat yah anyatra atmano brahma veda kshatram tam paradat yah anyatra atmanah kshatram veda lokastam paradat yah anyatra atmanah lokan veda devastam paradat devastam paraduhu yah anyatra atmanah devan veda bhutanidam paraduhu yah anyatra atmanah bhutani veda sarvam tam paradat yah anyatra atmanah sarvam veda idam brahma idam kshatram ime lokaha ime devaha imani bhutani idam sarvam yadayam atma. So this is Mahavakya in this Upanishad. The last day, idam sarvam yadayam atma. Idam sarvam, all these beings, yadayam atma. All these beings are nothing but the self. But to make that simple statement, they make so many statements. Idam Brahma, idam Kshatram, ime Loka, ime Deva, ime Devaha, imani Bhutani. Idam Saram. Whether it's Brahma. So Brahma Kshatriya stands there for the whole Varnashrama. Brahma means Brahmana, Kshatriya means Kshatriya. Meaning that this communication is based on the vyavastha or the system that prevailed at that time. And so that time the social vyavastha, the arrangement was based on the varna and ashrama. Varna means the caste and ashrama means stage of life. So that is what made everything systematic. Then everybody knew how to relate to the other one. You belong to this varna and ashrama, I belong to varna and ashrama, and then I know how to relate to you, etc. And therefore you find the description in that way. We can change the description to suit description now, but so whether it is Brahmana, Kshatriya, all these words, these lokas, words, the devatas, bhutas, idam saram, whether I am all of this is nothing but this self. That being the case, the first statement, Brahmatam paradat, ye anyatra atmana brahma veda. The Brahman Brahmana paradat rejects one. The Brahmana rejects one who looks upon Brahmana as different from himself. See, this very fundamental thing in the relationship between the two persons. How do I feel about you? When I come across you, what kind of feeling arises in me for you? It depends upon how you relate to me, how you look at me. If you look at me as your own self, then I embrace you in totality. More distance there is in your perception of me, more uncomfortable I am with you. And it says that when you look upon yourself as an entity distinct from me, that means that in your perception or in your relation, I stand totally different from you, then I reject you. Brahmatam paradayo annatra atmana anyatra brahma veda. Then Brahma rejects one who looks upon Brahmana as different from him. Meaning that you reject me. If I look upon you as different from myself, and I reject you if you look at me as different from me. No, Swami, I don't reject, but we do. It's a feeling that arises in us. It depends upon how I feel, the way you relate to me. Don't we feel differently in presence of different people? We feel differently in presence of different people, don't we? In presence of some people, we feel very comfortable. In presence of some other people, we feel uncomfortable. We want to get away from there. Here we want to be here, whatever. So that's the feeling that arises in us. We are comfortable in presence of some, less comfortable in presence of others, uncomfortable in presence of yet others. That is because the way the other person looks at us. And that depends upon our maturity, of how I look at myself. If I look at myself simply as this body, then I will look upon you as another body, and then there will be a great, tremendous difference between you and I, because two bodies are totally distinct. Look upon myself as ego, look at you at ego, then there will be still distinction, no doubt, but not as much as looking upon each other as body. If I look upon myself as Atma, I will automatically look upon you also as Atma, as myself. That is when we feel the most. So when we go in presence of some Mahatmas, feel very comfortable. Because Mahatmas are all evolved people, mature people. And they know the self as a self of me, a self of you, self of us. When we are their presence, we are very comfortable. And so, see, this is a very practical thing here as to how we feel in presence of other people. And therefore, how we should transform our perception of ourselves to feel comfortable everywhere. More fundamental my perception is of myself, more comfortable I am. So Brahmatam Paradadhya Anyatra Atmana Brahma Veda, meaning a Brahmana rejects the one who looks upon Brahmana as different from him, and Kshatriya, and then what is it, Loka and Deva and everything else. So this is the style. They they include everything. In words of Puja Swami, no glossing over. Then Devan, Bhutani, Sarvam Tam Paradat. You could have said every Sarvam, but no, not Sarvam. Start with, Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc. So why is it that I am rejected by someone whom I look upon as different from myself? Why? Why do I feel uncomfortable in presence of someone whom I look upon as different from myself? Because idam brahma, idam kshatram, ime lokaha, ime devaha, imani bhutani, idam saram, yadayam atma. Because what is the Brahmana? What is the Kshatriya? What are these worlds? What are the bhutas? What are the lokas? All of these are nothing but Atma. What is the self? And therefore, what is you? What you is I, that is the reality. And therefore, farther, closer we are to the reality, more comfortable we are in relating. Farther we are from the reality, less comfortable. Meaning that more I relate to the gross aspect of my personality, like the body, greater the distance is going to be, and more I'm identified with the subtler and subtler aspects of my being, closer I will be to you. Because idam sarvam yadayamatma, the Mahavakya, idam sarvam yadayamatma, all this is nothing but the self. That's the reason why knowing one thing, knowing Atma, you know everything, because what is Atma? How can you say all this is Atma? What is Atma? Atma is consciousness. So now the Upanishad proceeds to show what is his Atma? What is his consciousness? How do you show that? That what is his clay? Even though there are countless pots and pans, what is his clay? How do you show that? That all the pots and pans, they all emerge from clay. They're all stained by clay and they all merge back into clay. Clay is the upadana karanam, or the material cause of all the pots and pans. Therefore, from the standpoint of clay, everything is one. And that's what the Upanishad now shows, how everything is Atma, because from Atma, everything is emerged. In Atma, everything is sustained. In Atma, everything merges back. Therefore, what is Atma? Is shown here by various illustrations. Illustration for Sthiti, illustration for Laya, illustrations for creation. 6 illustrations are given here to show what is Atma. We'll continue in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Yapurnameva Shishyate Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम्। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम्।